I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.
It's not much to celebrate, but welcome back to the show. We're all recovering from Charlie Kirk's passing, but now we have to get into the weeds, and we have to figure out what happened and why. The good thing is this man is no longer on the streets, but more questions are arising. Also, when you look at the videos, you're going to observe the same thing I observed, which is basically going to show that my connections that I've been making lately when it comes to these school shooters and how the increase in homosexuality and transgenderism in the schools, there's a correlation between increase in school shootings as well. We're seeing the numbers go up. We're actually going to notice that he is on the spectrum, similar to Raja Jackson. When you look into his eyes and you listen to him speak, he's not all there. The same thing's going on with Mr. Tyler Robinson. Now, we do know what happens to these boys that are in school. When they are affected and they're on the spectrum, the school will groom you. They'll groom you to say, well, you're not autistic and just socially awkward. Maybe you're not making connections with other people because you're gay. Maybe you're not making other connections with other people because you're trans. And they try to excuse the autism as something to do with your sexuality. They put a wig on you and they affirm you. Oh my God, you're so much better now. They'll tell a woman to put on a sports jacket like a man. Oh, you're so beautiful. And these are kids who have been socially awkward because they're autistic for years. Now people are clapping for them. They don't really realize what's happening. Similar to how Rampage Jackson's son had no idea they were making jokes and what was going on around them. He doesn't even understand his dad's jokes. That's why when Rampage says all this funny shit, his son just stands there like, and he's spaced out. He has no idea what the fuck's going on. But violence, for an autistic person, life is complicated. And things that are complicating, they are confusing. The confusion turns into anger. Violence is the pressure relief of an autistic man, which is why you see so many black males who are also struggling with autism, vaccine damage. They're all in prison by the tens of thousands. You would think they were crack babies, but they're really vax babies. So this kid is also suffering from that, but let's see. This is Inside Edition. They did a little profile on him, but we're gonna listen to him and see what we can all discern from this.
It's the accused assassin posing with a .50 caliber machine gun. The chilling photo was taken at a military recruiting event. Tyler Robinson also posed with an anti-tank missile launcher. Here's what we've learned about the 22-year-old suspect accused of the political assassination that is shocking America.
Tyler Robinson.
He graduated from Pineview High School in Washington, Utah in 2021. Graduation photos with his proud mom, Amber, show him with a lei made from dollar bills as a graduation gift.
The thing is, yes, certain people are going to look normal on the outside. That's how they can blend in with society. You really have no idea what is or is not going on in their minds. And that's the scary part, because they're unassuming. And unless you know them personally, you don't know how much you need to monitor them. Now, as parents, you would hope that your child becomes a certain age, then they can become independent and live on their own. We're dealing with an autistic child. They grow at a slower pace. That's why that's why Rampage Jackson feels so guilty. The only two people that really knew about his son's, three people knew about his son's condition was himself, his son's mother, and their physician. He knew he's his son's handler. He needs to be with him at all times, or he might do something to harm others. This kid right here, his parents knows he's on the spectrum, but they're hoping that he's wrong, they're wrong, and that he can branch off into the world on his own. But what is one of the first things he does? One of the most heinous acts of violence you can do. Similar to Raja Jackson. What I'm pointing out to you is that these people that are on the spectrum, they're easily malleable. That means you can convince them to do anything. They're not going to think ahead because they're children. I believe the gap is about 10 to 12 years. So if your son is 15 years old, he might mentally be a 3 or 4 year old. That's why they have issues with incontinence. But that's why they say you'll eventually grow out of some of these conditions, because by the time you're 40, now you're in your mid 20s mentally. So you can start to function, and they kind of get their lives together, around 40 or so, and then they can kind of function on their own. But until then, the parents really have to monitor these children, or else.
Whip smart, his ACT score is 34, the top 1%, and he had a 4.0 grade point average. His mom took video the moment he learned he had earned a scholarship.
Let's pay close attention to this video. And remember, they're changing the requirements it takes to receive these scholarships. They're lowering the standards. They're not the same standards they were 10 years ago, where you have to have a competency test and you have to pass on a certain grade. Now, what used to be an A, or what used to be a B, is what used to be a C is an A now. What used to be an F is a C minus. Now they've changed the standards. So they're not failing kids and they're not working with them. They're just releasing them into the wild, into the public. We have to deal with them. But it's hard to look at them and know what's going on. We really need parents. Even if your son is undiagnosed, you know something is wrong. We need you to monitor these children, because even though they're in their 20s, they're still mentally children. They're not prepared. Similar to on the new Aliens show. Yeah, they have adult bodies, but they're the minds of children. They transferred into them. Yes, if you look at this, he's 20 something in this video. Mentally, he's a maybe 11-year-old, maybe 12. Watch.
Congratulations, you have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University.
But the family's joy was
They didn't show that video and just leave it alone. There's actually another video of him just reading. Let me see if I can find it on X. Tyler Robinson. That's not X, that's what you call it. That's TikTok. Okay, let's see here. Tyler Robinson Scholarship. Let's see here. There we go.
okay.
Congratulations, you have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship.
Okay.
You have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
He's obviously on the spectrum. He's there, but that's the thing. I don't know if you guys remember when we used to talk about MK Ultra and how they would give these people certain types of drugs. They would flash certain lights in their faces, keep them in certain conditions. And at a certain point, you can break the human mind, and you can implant memories and thoughts, and you can train people to have certain trigger words where they do certain things. In his condition, when you're vax damaged to that point and you grow up, you're already MK Ultra ready. You don't even need to go through the rest of the tones. But when the media is actually the control arm of the person who's in charge of the MK Ultra program, and they're constantly telling you certain people are bad, evil. They're demonizing Charlie Kirk because he wants to talk about Christian values, being a proud American, what it means to be a father, what it means to be married, what it means to have a family. Things that if you can break those few things down, we no longer have a United States. That's what made our country so strong initially, was family. I don't know if you've taken score, but family's out the window in America 2025. A lot of us are actually flying to other countries to get married and to have children because with all the gay and all the manipulation here in the United States, your kids are not going to be your kids. Your kids are going to be children that are recruited by the LGBTQP and served up to them. Or if you're as dark as me, your children will join the prison industrial complex, and they will also join the LGBTQ while they're in there. These autistic kids are weapons. These people on the spectrum are weapons. Raja Jackson is a weapon. You point and click like a mouse. And the same thing is with this kid. Again, when you're in these schools and you are socially awkward because you're autistic and you're mentally younger than the kids around you at your age physically, they will convince you that you're gay or you're trans. His only friends that probably he thinks ever accepted him were gay and trans people. So when someone comes out and says trans kids don't exist because they don't, and to be gay is to go against God and against humanity, and you're going to consider that as hate speech, even though that's your opinion based off of biblical scripture, a slow autistic kid is not going to be able to process that data. If someone tells him this person needs to die or be neutralized, this kid is going to just be pre-programmed to go do it on his own. Again, they're weapons. And if it wasn't this kid, Tyler, it would have been another autistic kid from some other random place that Charlie's speaking at. This was actually on the menu. This was going to be a matter of time. Personally, I plan on speaking out and going to do events in person more. This is not going to, what happened to Charlie this makes me want to follow in his footsteps. We have to. The spirit of fear is un-American. Fear of death is un-American. Death is coming regardless. Look how dark I am. There's somebody who's also dark too that would choose to kill me out of 1,000 people because I stepped on their Jordans anyway. Meaning, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I'd rather at least try. And if something happens to me, it was going to happen anyway. I live in Los Angeles. Clubs I go to get shot up and I still go back. Obviously, the spirit of fear is not something that I'm too familiar with in the first place. Even though self-preservation should be paramount, some things are more important than others.
Short-lived, he attended Utah State University for just one semester before dropping out. I spoke with criminologist Casey Jordan.
He really just does fit the profile of somebody who falls into a rabbit hole, has a feeling of disillusionment and isolation. This kind of person is usually very immature and often at a crux in their life where they feel like nothing is turning out as they planned.
The Robinsons seem like an all-American family. Tyler was raised in this $600,000 six-bedroom home with hunting trophies on the walls. Social media posts show family vacations and fishing trips. His mom works with disabled people and his father...
Of course she does. Look at your son's eyes. Their son is disabled. But they worked with him, and they probably did the best they could. But you can't be with your kids 24 hours a day, especially when they are of age. You got to kind of let them leave the nest, but he wasn't prepared. He wasn't prepared. And the thing is, you didn't really necessarily need someone from the government or anybody in particular to whisper in his ears. The television and social media are doing that for him. Before yesterday, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, everything, if you're looking at left-wing material, everything about him was demonic and evil, and you would have thought he was the worst person on earth compared to Trump. You would think he was also one of the most heinous and horrible people. It doesn't take much to get some of these people to crash out and do something that they shouldn't. This was only a matter of time. And if it wasn't Trump, if it wasn't Kirk, they would have tried someone else. Remember, the shooter in Pennsylvania, in Butler, remember, it was an autistic trans kid, the same as this kid. You think that's a coincidence? Or what about the other school shooter a few days ago in Colorado? An autistic trans kid. Or the school shooter in Texas, an autistic trans kid. There is a pattern here. We're going to have to round them up. But if your parents are in denial about your condition, we won't be able to identify you, and we don't know how helpful hospitals are going to be with releasing medical records of people who were diagnosed on the spectrum 10 years ago that might be of age today. That's going to be a hard task. It's going to take us in the public. We're going to have to eventually make a database. We're going to have to track, trace, and database certain people. And I'll be honest, in the name of public safety, even though it sounds Orwellian, track, trace, and database, I mean, we're already being monitored anyway, but I mean, not that we need a system of pre-crime, but if there are elements in our society that are basically sleeper cells of American origin, we need to be able to identify them. But even if we would have known ahead of time, what could we have done? You know, detain him? But what if Charlie Kirk wasn't his target? What if it was somebody else? It's a really slippery slope because he could have changed course easily. We don't know how much planning went into this. Obviously, this kid is not extremely bright. He's a simple guy. What made him have this bright idea to figure out to go up outside of the perimeter and set up a shot from that distance? I mean, I guess we're going to have to wait for more information to come out. But again, we're going to have to track, trace, and database these kids who are on the spectrum that have been indoctrinated with trans and gay ideology, because they are going to be the most confused and the angriest. You know, a lot of kids, if you're normal and you grow up and you realize you were manipulated into doing gay stuff when you were younger, if you were coerced and it was basically turns out to be rape, a lot of these boys, when they become men, they decide to commit suicide. They self-delete. But if you're an autistic kid and you're trying to wrap your brain around what happens, again, violence is their release valve. We just seen it happen with Roger Jackson. Release valve, violent, autistic. There's a pattern forming, and all these men are now in their 20s. We have a long road ahead of us, because if they're all turning out to be these autistic kids who are also influenced by transgenderism or suffering from it, then there's more to come. And they live in the United States, so you don't have to worry about terrorists coming from out of the country. They know the terrain, they speak the language. It's going to be extremely hard if we wait too long to start to track, trace, and database these people. There are going to be more tragedies. If these school shootings are increasing, along with the rates of how many kids are identifying as trans, this is happening right now, whether we're going to acknowledge it or not. That's why I make these videos, so that you can know. That's why I ask for you to share. If you're listening to this, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram, follow me on X. But we have to be prepared, and we have to start looking out for these people. Rampage kept his son close. The one day he wasn't with him, all hell breaks loose. And we don't know where this kid told his dad he was going to be that day, but I'm sure his parents even blamed themselves because they knew something was wrong with their son.
Mark owns a kitchen countertop business. But Utah's governor says Tyler Robinson's life took a dark turn.
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years.
He said that at a family dinner before the shooting, Robinson vented about the visit of Charlie Kirk to Utah Valley University.
They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
Investigators also revealed that Kirk's assassin left behind bullet casings with political messages. One says, "Hey fascists, catch." Another says, "Bella Ciao Ciao Ciao," a song used in the video game Far Cry 6, and which radical elements have adopted as an anti-fascist anthem.
Bella ciao, ciao, ciao.
There was also a reference.
Is he bright enough and mentally capable enough to use a engraving machine to write messages on shell casings? Do you know how intricate that is? Do you know how much effort that takes in planning, and who has access to a machine? And if you were using someone else's machine, why would they allow you to engrave on shell casings? No one, this isn't equipment that everybody, let me go in my kitchen and I can just engrave in a fucking bullet shell and hopefully it doesn't ignite, I don't trigger something, it doesn't break. Who in there, nobody does that. Nobody. So these were intentionally done to be left behind. But if that's the case, then that means he left evidence because he wanted to be caught eventually. So in that instance, why leave the scene? You did the shooting, you might as well just sat there and waited for the police. You're leaving showcasing behind. So that means you wanted them to investigate and figure out who you were. You're helping the investigation at that point. You're not hindering it. Now, if you had left no trace of anything and just kind of vanished, that makes it harder for investigators to pinpoint things, and it leaves a cloud of confusion around the situation. But if you're leaving little trinkets with messages on them, obviously you wanted to get caught. It's kind of reminiscent of the Magliani guy who they're saying killed that healthcare CEO. He went through all the trouble of disguising himself, shooting the guy, running, but also leaving a backpack. Having a backpack on with all this stuff in there. And if you wanted to get caught and you wanted to be a hero, why run in the first place? Why not just sit on the ground and wait for the police to pick you up? I wonder where he was able to find a place to get these bullets engraved. I think that's something we should ask too. Because and then to put Ciao Bella from what? If you're playing, I play video games every day. I don't know the fucking names of the songs. Like, why would I? So that's also a very specific and odd thing to do if you're not trying to get caught. But if you are trying to get caught, then why run in the first place? You wouldn't even, why leave the shells? And where in the fuck did you get the equipment to do engravings well enough where you can be able, where it's legible on a small bullet shell? That's not something, again, that's just, you can just go to Kinko's and get some bullets imprinted. That's not how that works.
Prints on the bullets to a violent video game, Helldivers 2. The chilling engravings on bullet casings are invoking comparisons with Luigi Mangione, who prosecutors say scrolled.
What are the odds of this? I literally just brought this guy up, and literally, and personally, I've never watched this video. I'm live watching this for the first time with you guys, with the chat. And thank you guys for tuning in. By the way, like and subscribe, watch the videos. I'm right here on YouTube or on the Single Boyfriend or WING RICO. You can find me on YouTube or one of these other platforms. I just made the connection. Mangione did the same thing, but if you think about it, if you ever listen to him talk, he's also on the spectrum. He's not all the way there. That's why people are saying he didn't do this. He's not smart enough to do it. He wasn't clever enough to get away. And then to find him with all that stuff on him planted, and he doesn't really have much to say about it. It's like he doesn't know what's going on. It's reminiscent again of Roger Jackson. Watch my videos on Roger Jackson. It's the same thing. There's something here. There's something wrong with their programming. They're walking amongst us because on the outside they look normal until you look in the eyes. It's all in the eyes. I have a brother that's vax injured, autistic, and it took him until his late 30s to get his life together because he could not function in civilized society. I have a cousin, also vax injured. All my friends back in LA when I was a kid growing up, they all were. That's how they all end up in jail. The anger issues when the teacher asks you to read out loud, the mood swings, the being impulsive and just boom, blowing somebody, and then you're in prison, and you're sitting there in prison and you're looking around, you have no idea, you have no wherewithal, there's no inward dialogue where you can rationalize and talk to yourself. They are not there.
Messages on the bullets used to kill United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Like Luigi, Tyler Robinson is young and intelligent and had so much going for him before allegedly lashing out with a mindless act of violence.
Something in his life was on a downward spiral, and he picked Charlie Kirk as the target for this hatred.
I think we're going to find out that, because one thing about these autistic people, like this Tyler kid, like Roger Jackson, like my brother. When you're that socially awkward and you have a mental disability, women are not your forte. Women can pick up on these things because remember, they are not vaccine injured most of the time because estrogen reduces the effects, but testosterone amplifies them. Always remember that. So women are normal and the men are off. When a woman, if there's a woman who it comes into your life and she's around you, she's going to be the only one. And they'll upset, you can get these men to do anything for you. If there's somebody, I bet you we're going to find out somebody in his life told him that they hate Charlie Kirk. They wish he was dead. They don't know why he's coming there. He scares them. They're afraid of him. And, he says all these things about it. And I bet you this guy, this Tyler Robinson guy, was really just trying to protect this person, is what he's going to say. Someone put him up to this. If that's him that did it, someone put him up to it, but they didn't have to tell him to go do it. They just told him that Charlie was evil. They're afraid. They're scared. Something needs to be done. And you just constantly program and you manipulate these people to do things that are crazy. I know guys that, for example, when I was growing up, I knew guys that would, yeah. When I was growing up, I knew guys that if a girl who they had a crush on told them to jump off of a roof or do a backflip off of a bridge, they would do it. Because it was so hard for them to meet women because they had certain issues that when they finally did meet a woman, they can't afford to lose her because they can't replace her. And over time, she becomes all you know. He did this for somebody. Now, I'm not saying that he was, because it could have been a trans person that's a good friend of his or someone he's romantically involved with. It could have been another boy who's not on the spectrum, who was basically just feeding him this vitriol about Charlie Kirk. And this kid, without knowing any the wiser, he's just listening to it and repeating it. It's kind of like me, for example. I can show you one of my friends, actually, and this is a really smart guy that is very successful that I've known for years. And yesterday, he's trying to convince me that I was a slave. I bullshit you not. And he was adamant about it. And I was like, I've been inside my body my entire life. I would have remembered being a slave. And he's like, no, Rico, listen. You were a slave. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, are you trying to say there's a gap I'm missing in my memory between 3rd and 5th grade where I was slave or I was in a field somewhere? What are you talking about? In his mind, he was a slave. In his mind, he lived 200 years ago and he just magically woke up in the 21st century with the toaster and technology. But let me see here. And this is a super smart guy. But even him, in his mind, he's been brainwashed to believe that he's a victim. Right here. Yeah, he thought that this was clickbait, me talking online. And I'm like, no. And he's like, he's basically saying that it's God's will for someone to kill you. And I'm like, so are you saying that it's God's will for all those black people to kill each other in Chicago and these other big cities? And he had no choice but to say yes. So it's basically, according to my black friends, it's God's will to get rid of all the black people. This is their own words being, used to, this is what they're saying. But let me see here. He's an Israelite, so he speaks about Deuteronomy. He uses a lot of Bible quotes, but he's basically trying to explain to me that I was a slave. If I was a weak-minded person, if I was autistic, I would believe it. My black friends were autistic. When Alex Haley came out with the movie Roots and they played it for you in school, you went from saying, well, my grandparents said we were Native Americans and from this tribe. The day after they started playing, the day after a kid watches the movie Roots, they're all from Africa, they're all slaves, they're all oppressed and mentally damaged. Now, I come from a two-parent household. We're Latino. I didn't know all the black propaganda until I was an adult. I had no idea that they were oppressed, or they were racism was a thing, and they felt like they couldn't do anything in the world because of white people. I had no clue about all this. I find this out as an adult, but it wasn't targeted towards me. I missed it. Targeted towards younger generations. They can manipulate these kids who are autistic into believing anything. When you see all this twisted anger and hatred, and you're like, well, where is this coming from? And they start saying stuff that's not true, and this person's this person. You're like, wait a minute, well, show me the proof. Matter of fact, you keep throwing the word fascist around. What's the definition? Oh, I'm not sure the definition. It's like, fuck, these kids are fucked. They are gone. But you can literally indoctrinate and brainwash people easily by just repeating things to them over and over again. And eventually they'll just believe it, because it's kind of like the get along thing. People want to be accepted. If you're an autistic person already who's struggling with keeping friends or making friends, struggling with being in a relationship, and somebody who finally wants to be around you tells you there's somebody coming that they hate, that's threatening them, that's scaring them, and if this person is allowed to keep speaking, they're going to come kill me. If you say stuff like that to one of these impressionable autistic people, they are going to do what this kid did. When these wrestlers were joking around with Rampage Jackson's son, they're obviously standing around joking. They're using a prop can, and everything's fake. In his mind, it's all real, literally verbatim. There's no sense of being able to discern reality from make-believe. That's another thing that happens when you're vaccine injured. You cannot separate reality from fiction. You watch a movie, you think that's how things really are. Where bullets can you can block bullets with a front door, and not going to go through the door. You can hide behind a car, and bullets are going to, be stopped, and all that stuff's make believe. People believe that when they are mentally impaired. They can't separate when someone's joking from when someone's telling the truth. There's no nuance. So again, I think there was somebody who said something to him and kept saying it to him, and they kept using Charlie Kirk as their, as they're just basically their arch nemesis. And he, in his own way, was trying to protect somebody that he thought loved him too. And he's going to be in prison, but he won't realize it for years and years. He's not going to think about it. They said Mangione is sitting in there. He really doesn't have any idea that he's even in jail. All these fans out here, he's not speaking. He's not writing profound letters and addressing he has no idea why he's even there. He's autistic. Likely he didn't even do it in the first place. It wasn't even him. Because if it was him, then he would have been using the same methods to conceal his identity 2 states away. He would have been continuing to do so. He also would have had an escape plan. If you're that clever, where you're going to catch somebody doing that, then you also know how to get away. He didn't want to get away. Now, whoever did this shooting, they took off. And it looks a lot like this guy, but I'll be honest, you really can't be too sure. Where did he get a chance to write on these showcases? An autistic kid that age, when did he have the time, and who worked with him? Who was his handler? Who was the one taking him around to go do this stuff? He's not just figuring this out on his own. Somebody wanted a message left. He doesn't seem bright enough to come up with some very profound and deep message. Someone like myself with my intelligence would do something like that. But it would actually be it wouldn't make any sense for someone like me to do it. We would think about it, and it wouldn't there would be no net positive, so we wouldn't do it. But someone at his mental status, even though they can pull the trigger and do the violence, all the intricate details around it, the shell casings and all that, he doesn't have the mental capacity to pull that off. He just doesn't.
This vitriol.
actors. We can make you believe we know what we're doing, when in fact,
With the arrest of Tyler James Robinson, the suspect in the killing of Charlie Kirk, we just got our hands on brand new court paperwork. We are talking potential charges. We are talking bail. We are talking now a new detailed timeline of events, and we're going to break it down for you in real time. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, so we're doing something very different here on Sidebar. We are breaking down this legal paperwork we just got our hands on in real time. No prep. I'm literally looking at this right now. This is new paperwork that was just filed in connection with the arrest of Tyler James Robinson, the 22-year-old who is suspected of killing Charlie Kirk. Now, what do I have in my hands on? I have an affidavit of probable cause. I have an order from a judge denying him bail, and then a public safety assessment report. I'm going to break all of this down in real time. He hasn't been officially charged yet, but this is what he has been booked on. I want to bring on trial attorney Rich Schoenstein, who's going to break this down with me in real time. So we're both looking at this. Rich, good to see you. By the way,
Good to see you.
Great background. Is that real or is that AI? I mean, it looks like a really
No. This is my real brother's real house in Columbus, Ohio.
It looks good. Looks good. Okay, so what I want to do first is go into this affidavit of probable cause, which led to his arrest. He is charged, and we'll break down these charges. He is going to be charged, or at least he's been booked right now, on aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, obstruction of justice, capital first-degree felony conduct. Before we go any further, Rich, so basically, this is what he could be charged with. This is what prosecutors could be seeking. It could be modified in some way, but at this point, this seems to fall in line with what the allegations are.
Right. I mean, basically, the charges here are murder, illegal discharge of a firearm in public where he did it, and obstruction of justice, which I think means flight. And as you say, there are other possible crimes that might or might not be added later.
And so
look at this guy's face. He's blatantly mentally challenged. He's from Mice and Men. He's Lenny. Lenny could walk, he could talk. He wouldn't walk into oncoming traffic. If the light's green, he'll stop. If it was red, he'll stop. If it's green, he'll go. He's not just walking onto the freeway. He can, at a surface level, literally, survive in public on a surface level. Nothing too complicated. There's something that's not adding up about any of this. And I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it's highly improbable. This guy is not that bright. But again, when you're not that bright, if somebody arrests you and accuses you of something, you're not going to know to defend yourself because you don't really know what's going on. You don't know. Like I said, I always bring up Roger Jackson. That's a real life. Literally, the cameraman is following him. He's on the phone and he's like, my bad. He has no clue what the hell just happened. He doesn't know. He's not there. He's there, present physically. Mentally, he's on Mars. He's on Jupiter. He's gone. But they're able to function on a primordial level mentally. They know food, eat, bathroom, use the restroom. It probably took them till they were 10 to become potty trained. And now their parents want to treat them like regular people. Rampage Jackson wants to treat his son like a regular young man. And you slip because you have to keep your kids under your care until they're at least 30, 35. You can't just release them into the public because they're either going to commit a crime like this or they're going to be framed for one. And think about how many, let's be real. How many men do you think are mentally challenged on the spectrum? They're in prison right now for crimes they didn't commit, but someone who's not on the spectrum actually told on them and said, this is the person who did it. And the person on the spectrum was like, what? and they have no way to defend themselves. They don't care to defend themselves, and they just go live in jail. One of my best friends, my business partner, not to put his business out there, his brother is like this. His brother's in prison. And the day his brother got out, he literally, I went to go pick him up. Before the end of that night, he already did something to go back into prison. You have to watch him. But you don't know when they're just going to snap also. You can't trust them to go be on their own. You have to monitor them, or they will either get killed or be in prison. Look at these men we're talking about. Prison is their only future because they can't function in normal society. See, society requires a dialogue in speaking to people, dealing with people, interactions. Why do you think the Black community is struggling so hard to integrate with civilized American society? Why do you think there's so many of them in prison, yet where the numbers are comparable to the majority of the population, even though they're a small minority, but yet their prison population is literally equivalent with those who are 75%? Because a lot of them, according to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., took that MMR vaccine and they have 400% higher rates of autism in their male population. Not to make excuses, but it just shows you why there's such a hard time merging with civilized American society. That's why I say the two communities can't coexist. They can, but only when they're removed from society. That's why we build prisons. But is that a long-term answer? And it isn't. Complete separation is going to be the only answer that boils down to. But then again, this kid is similar to them. He's not there. He's on the spectrum. He can be falsely accused of this and he'll get railroaded because they need a scapegoat. He's not going to say that wasn't me. I don't remember. He's not coherent enough to do that. He's not there.
Let me read through this whole probable cause statement, and it says, I believe there is probable cause to charge the defendant with these charges. And I believe this is from an arresting officer, although I'll see at the end. Brian Davis, officer's name. This is in the county of Utah, state of Utah. Okay. I believe there is probable cause to charge the defendant with these charges because the following information was obtained by your affiant from police officers, multiple video recordings posted on social media websites, Utah Valley University campus surveillance cameras, and those who witnessed the incident. On September 10th, 2025, Charles James Kirk was at the Utah Valley University UVU campus.
You know, one more thing about these people that are on the spectrum, these mentally ill men, you're going to notice that one thing is that you never hear about them operating a motor vehicle. You'll never hear about Raja Jackson driving himself somewhere, and that's how he got to the scene of whatever happened. You're not going to hear about Mangione driving somewhere. And you're never going to hear about Tyler Robinson. He jumped in a car and left the scene of the crime. They don't drive. Write that down in your notes. The people that I'm talking about, they don't drive. They can't drive. The traffic laws, the signs, it's too complicated. It frustrates them. They become angry, mood swing. They just give up. They're done. Keep that in mind. These people that I'm talking about, they also don't drive. They can't drive.
In Orem, Utah for a political event. Mr. Kirk is a conservative political activist who was scheduled to speak in an event in the courtyard area on the UVU campus. The courtyard area is to the west of the Low C Center building. According to video recordings, Charles was wearing a white t-shirt and dark pants, sitting under a white canopy in a courtyard of the campus facing to the east.
And yes, you got videos and pictures of this kid being around guns, but this is a fucking hell of an impossible shot. Now there's typically a 200-yard perimeter around an event like this, but for them to allow a line of sight from a rooftop outside that perimeter, I mean, think about it. We made the same blind spot failures in Butler, Pennsylvania. We almost lost our president. His security, with his budget, should have been sweeping the rooftops. They can afford it. Yes, they want to think in good faith. No one would ever want to harm you, but you have to stay dangerous. You have to live life like you're on the run. You can't just sit still and think everything's going to be okay. Not in these times. There's Black Army officials everywhere. Black Army or who? It's the gay and the Black community have combined together to form what I call the Black Army. They hate straight white men. They hate you with the bottom. Their whole existence is to torment you. They are the radicalized elements that I refer to that commit these crimes. I'm not saying everybody in the gay community, because you have people like Gays Against Groomers who are obviously not a part of the agenda. You got people that are Black that are actually good people. I'm talking about the violent ones who are extremists, who are autistic. They're the ones who make up the frontline soldiers of the Black Army. The lieutenants are the people in the media that are basically whispering in their ear through these videos and this content they put out there, and they're giving them orders in a roundabout way. They're highly malleable people that are very susceptible to impressions. If you're telling them what you want, think about it. Think about it. How long the media kept saying someone needs to put a bullet in Trump. They need to do this, Trump, do that. And eventually, an autistic trans kid tried to do it. And we don't know shit about that kid still. Because if you knew more about that kid, you would be able to stop the next kid. If we knew more about that gay trans kid in Butler that tried to kill Trump, we would have knew how to identify Tyler Robinson before he killed Kirk. Now, when you're trying to use these weapons against people, you don't want to stop that. You want that to happen. That's why do you think we don't know anything publicly about the kid who tried to kill Trump in Butler? I'll wait. I'm open. They don't want you to think about that. Because if you knew what to look for, if you knew more about the kid from Butler, we will be able to identify 100 of these other basically autistic sleeper cells that are in our country that are literally just time bombs waiting to explode. They want the bombs to go off. They want power. And it's not just the left at this point. There's globalists that we're fighting against right now. The UK is gone. Canada is gone. All these places, Australia is gone. They're bringing in the third world to replace the people that they euthanize. We're all that's left. Keep in mind, Charlie Kirk would have been our president 2 cycles from now. He's articulate, he's smart, he's well-spoken. He's even taller than me. That's what they look for when you're looking to be who's going to be presidential. He actually cared to hear about other people. He would debate you, he would talk to you. He was better than me. I don't want to hear your bullshit. I don't want to hear your lies. I don't want to hear your excuses. I'm not going to humor you. That's where Kirk came in. Now with the person who believed in dialogue the most being gone, I mean, yes, I'm going to do speaking events, but it's really going to be probably echo chambers. Other people aren't going to want to talk to me about something serious. I try to get people to talk to me about politics and tell me stuff every day. They won't do it. I walk around with a MAGA hat on and Trump and alligator Alcatraz and the Gulf of America shirts. And even if you're a hardcore Democrat and I bring up these topics, they don't want to fist fight me, so they won't talk to me about these things. But I still want to go out and talk to people, and I'm going to do more of it because we cannot let a gap in the dialogue fall through. Even though I might not agree with how Charlie did it all the time, because I felt like some of these people were just there to insult him. I felt like he was too good for that, but I understand it and I appreciate what he was doing, and I'm going to also throw my hat in the ring, and I'm just going to sit there and I'm open to talking to people. But do I think that mentally ill Black and gay kids who have been told that they're victims and that they're slaves, do I think you can save them? No. Do I think that you will be able to tell them something that's going to make them be able to go function in normal society? No. They are going to be activists till they die. They're not going to work. They can't work. They're in student loan debt. They're going to need UBI pretty soon. They're going to need government assistance. They don't have families, no children. They're autistic. That means they couldn't get married. They couldn't deal with another person. They're convinced that they're gay until they grow out of it. They can't have children. They're not going to get married. So what happens? People in those situations vote for communism. They vote for the state to take care of them. So you want to live in your communist utopia, but my capitalist dollars have to fund it. That's where all this leads. That's why we don't know anything about that kid from Butler.
The event was attended by hundreds of individuals. Charles was surrounded by people with multiple individuals to his left, right, and rear and front of the canopy. Behind the canopy was a walkway used for access to various parts of the university. Charles was holding a microphone and speaking to a crowd. While speaking into the microphone, a loud gunshot was heard at approximately 12:23 hours, and Charles appeared to have been hit in the neck. Now, that's interesting because I kind of did a separate sidebar on this about there was speculation whether or not he was hit in the chest and it ricocheted into his neck, but here he says it's been hit in the neck. Blood was seen coming out of the left side of his neck as he fell over to his left. Charles was transported to Panagos Regional Hospital in Orem. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that.
I wish he would have had some kind of covers on the side and he could just talk to the people in front of him, but the sides were closed. You know, maybe the part of the tent was closed. Because what do you need to see from the side? He can't even talk to you directly. You know, or maybe there should have been security guards on each side of him, but then again, that comes off as militaristic. It looks like you're there out of, it looks like you fear something. It's just like when I see the Pope in this bulletproof glass, and I'm like, what the obviously you must not believe in God that much because you're afraid to meet him. Kirk obviously was not afraid. I just wish that I wish he would have had coverings, and then someone wouldn't have been able to get a shot on him. If you wanted to get a shot, you would only think, and that's the only people that could shoot would have been directly ahead, and then security could have just been looking. But for you to have a 360, you would have need a drone flying around, and maybe you would need lookouts on the roofs. If you can afford the people to do it, why not pay? To ensure your safety, because without you, there is no machine. TPUSA is a brilliant, amazing machine. He's the head of the machine. We need you. I wish that he wasn't even on the front lines. I wish somebody else would have been there. We need our best and our brightest. We need them. I'm not saying other people are more expendable, but other people can do certain things, and the risk to the overall risk is minimized if something happens to them versus the main person at the top.
Charles was pronounced deceased at the hospital. Investigators reviewed the Utah Valley University surveillance cameras. While reviewing the surveillance cameras, investigators observed an individual on the rooftop of the Losi Center building on the UVU campus at the time of the shooting. Hereafter, the unidentified individual will be referred to as suspect.
It definitely looks like him. Not saying it wasn't him that did it. I just said that it wasn't him that came up with this by himself. I think that someone was telling them how afraid of Charlie Kirk they are, how much they hate Charlie Kirk, and they kept beating it into him. And he figured this would be the best way as a gift to whoever his friend is or whatever woman he loves. He did it for them. He didn't listen to Charlie Kirk and say, I disagree with that. He's not able to process information. People in his mental state, you tell them, you point and click. There's no inward dialogue where they talk and they ration. That's not how it works. Someone has to tell them what to do, and then they figure out when to get it done. They're drones. Perfect factory workers.
Based on surveillance camera footage, suspect appears to be a white male with dark-colored hair, wearing a dark-colored hat, sunglasses, a long-sleeve black shirt with a picture of an American flag and an eagle printed on the shirt, dark-colored jeans, and white-gray shoes with white-colored shoelaces. The shoes appear to be consistent with Chuck Taylor Converse-style shoes.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current.
We've been following this story from the beginning. And one of the reasons that we can do this to really dive into these cases and stories is because of the amazing support that we get from our sponsors like Upside. Now, Upside is great. It is a free app that gets cash back when you buy daily essentials. So I pump my gas, I can use Upside. I go out. Suspect walks with a distinctive gait. Prior to the shooting, suspect appears to walk with a stiff right leg and a relatively slow pace. Suspect's ability to bend his right leg appears to be restricted. Investigators were able to track suspect's movements on the UVU campus starting at approximately 11:50 hours on September 10th, 2025. At approximately 11:50 hours, a UVU surveillance camera first captured suspect walking across a grassy area north of Campus Drive at approximately 800 West. By the way, we knew that there were surveillance footage, but now we're really getting this in depth. A suspect walked south through the parking lot and approached a pedestrian tunnel that runs underneath Campus Drive. Before entering the tunnel, suspect paused at the top of the stairs and pulled out what appeared to be a cell phone from his right pocket using his right hand at approximately 11:53 hours.
Whoever he did this for, out of love, that's the first person he called. That's who he let know what he had done. I'm sure it's not the father. There's a love interest in his life, a woman, or maybe a man. People like him are lonely. It's a lonely world when you don't understand the world. And when you're awkward, people don't want to be around you. It's just how it goes. And when someone does come around and they're the only people that you have, you'll do anything in the world for. He would die for this person. Or you'll kill for them too. Whoever he spoke to is the person that he did this for. He didn't just do it for himself because it's the greater good. That would require thinking, processing. That would require, rationalization. He's autistic. He doesn't have that ability. See, you and I can have that ability. That's why we watch videos and we think. Think about our friends and family members who are watching television shows in the other room and they would never watch this type of content because they can't. They would watch these videos, they would watch content from me and they would be confused and they would look all over the place and they're like, I don't like it, put something else on. They can't do anything that requires much thought. They're surface level people because anything beneath that is just too complicated. It gives them a headache to think. So he didn't come up with this by himself because that would be too intricate. There was someone else who he did this for.
Suspect eventually put what appeared to be a cell phone back in his right pants pocket using his right hand. Surveillance captured suspect making his way toward the Losi Center. At approximately 12:02 hours, suspect was recorded walking on the north side of the Losi Center building, walking with the same gait as observed earlier. Suspect entered the Losi Center building through a set of doors on the southeast corner of the Losi Center building. At approximately 12:15 hours, the limb from previous surveillance was absent. Suspect ran to the west side of the rooftop and appeared to scoot along the rooftop area as he got closer to the edge of the rooftop. At approximately 12:22,
look at him. Look at his eyes. He's not a normal kid. He never was. His parents are going to feel guilt because they're going to wish that they had kept an eye on him closer. Because all it took was one person to influence him. And he could not tell that person no, and he can't distinguish really between right and wrong. He thinks what he did was right if he's thinking about it at all. He wasn't afraid of getting caught. He actually confessed it to his father who turned him in because his dad is thinking, what have I done? If I had been with him, which I'm supposed to be as his caregiver, he would have never went there in the first place. I shouldn't have been letting him walk around in public amongst the population knowing that he's a ticking time bomb. You as a parent got to know your son the people are not safe around your kid. And if you want your kid to live or not end up in prison, keep them with you at home. Every time you go to the store, they go. Pretend that they're even more handicapped. You have to keep these kids under your eyes or they're going to end up like this. Like and subscribe, share the video. We'll come back and talk about it some more. I have another couple of topics we're going to do in about 20 minutes. I'm just going to, drink a little bit more juice and get set up for the next one. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you again. The WING RICO, single boyfriend. Follow me on X, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Like and subscribe. I upload these videos. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And remember, we have to track, trace, and database these people. Remember, autistic, trans, usually in their early 20s, because the indoctrination has been going on for about 10 years now. So actually, once Trump got elected, 10 years from then is today. These are people that they started these campaigns back then, and now these kids are of age and they're sleeper cells. The good thing is this. What if he would have just turned a machine gun on the crowd? That's why you need security watching these buildings. We're lucky he stopped with Kirk. He could have did more, and he would have got away. Like the shooter in Vegas when he killed that guy and his wife. There were no police anywhere around. He actually walked away from the scene. But that means that he had plenty of time to do even more damage. We got lucky. The next time we won't be so lucky. These trans and autistic Black Army people are coming for us. They're coming for all of us. They're coming for each other too. It's not just, they're not going to just let bygones be bygones. These are the kind of weapons that you can't control. These are weapons that you just wind them up and you watch them go. But you're not able to turn back the winding or change the direction. You just see what happens. Like I said, they're time bombs. You don't know when they're going to go off. This is deep. I'll be back with more information. Talk to you guys. Thank you for tuning in.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.